What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 425 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. As always, I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
Joining us this week over the internet. It's been quite some time. I can't remember the last time it happened, but I guess that's just a way of saying it's overdue. We are joined by our very good friend, filmmaker extraordinaire, Mr. Jared Skolnick. Jared, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on again.
Again, it's kind of, I guess, given if Jared's coming on, we're probably talking movies. That's just that's how historically how it's worked.
It's a fair bet.
We're gonna, why deviate? What's the point of changing it? We're still talking movies because there's been a lot of, at least in the last week, there's been a lot of movie buzz because the last year hasn't had a whole lot aside from Mulan and Wonder Woman. Yep, those are the two movies that I can think of that really like kind of created a lot of buzz. I know a lot more came out than that. Like watching, excuse me. Like Jared put out like his end of the year list, like here are my favorite movies, and I was like, these didn't come out this year. None of these don't exist. These aren't real.
Not legally, no.
Which I believe at the top of the list was I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Yes.
Which, Jared, I guess I probably shouldn't even get into it because I could spend an entire episode just talking about that movie and how confused I was. But anyways, we're here to talk about one movie in particular because it warrants discussion, because I don't think anyone else is talking about it. We're probably going to be the first people.
Maybe two movies. We might be talking about two movies.
That's fair.
Or is it the same? It's one movie but in two different.
Yeah, two manifestations of the same thing.
That's how blessed we are in this day and age. Is we got a movie and then people were like, that wasn't great. Let's get the other one. And then we got the other one. So we're going to talk about the Snyder Cut and Justice League and DC's movies because that's what's happened. So first off, I want to get it out of the way. I didn't mind the first Justice League. I can't remember if we ever talked about it on the show, like in depth. I think maybe we talked about it in passing. Like I didn't hate it, at least from my opinion. Alex, did you ever see the original?
Oh yeah.
Or the Whedon cut?
Yeah. Because I know we had Zack on to talk about Batman vs Superman, I think.
Right.
But
we did like a moratorium on Ben Affleck as Batman.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. So I guess I want to admit that now I've been wrong twice or 1.5 times, because for over a decade I've been declaring that a Justice League movie will never get made. It will never happen. I've been saying this with extreme confidence for most of my adult life, because a lot of comic book fans know that like they've tried to make it happen. They've said it's going to happen with these actors, and then someone drops out. They said it's going to happen in this studio, and then like a producer drops out. And at no point did it get to like being a sure thing. There was like a really bad network TV version where the big threat was the atom shrunk down too small and got attacked by a cat. That happened. And the suits were literally
did almost
like,
get a George Miller version, though.
Almost, though, huh? But not. Right.
Very close.
Something happened.
That was like 2 weeks away from shooting, and then they pulled the plug.
Exactly. That's like the studio's going to get cold feet, or someone thinks the money's not there, or there's not enough characters to work around. And everyone declares like, well, it could be Christian Bale. And Christopher Nolan's like, no, we're not doing that. And so it's just been
the hell you will.
It's been very clear and very obvious it would never happen. And even like while it was getting made, while Zack Snyder was shooting, they had Batman, they had Superman, they had Wonder Woman. They're like, look, we got Aquaman now. Look, we got Flash. Look, we've got someone else. Because Cyborg was kind of getting like C-list treatment. And I was still like, they're not going to finish. It's not going to finish. And then there a point came where Zack Snyder was no longer directing. And I messaged JR and I was like, as much as I want to be right, I not like this. This is not how I want it to happen. And then they decided we'll call on Joss and he'll finish it for us. And it happened and I was wrong. And now 4 years after that, it's happened again. So I'm wrong twice.
In a very dramatic way too.
Yeah, and the first one was an experience. It was definitely different. I praised it for kind of, with the Marvel movies, we expect not a certain like formula, but like they have their way of doing things. They have their setup and then they have their payoff and then they have their setup again, like they do the phases. And DC was kind of going a different route. We had a little bit of a setup with Man of Steel. It went Man of Steel and then Batman, Superman, and then Justice League. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, with Suicide Squad in between.
Right, but we can just forget it. Suicide Squad never happened. We can just forget about it. It's not a real movie.
Doesn't exist.
Exactly. James Gunn's Suicide Squad, if you ask me, is the first time the Suicide Squad has ever been a movie.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this specific concept will turn out for the first time.
For the first time ever. I remember being like, they did something different. They didn't do the traditional like 6 movie setup and then a giant payoff. They just kind of went, and they had bold casting. They brought in the Batfleck and all that stuff. We recorded multiple episodes about that whole saga. But I tried to be excited for a lot of it because I honestly I like DC. I have the Justice League carved into my skin. So I wanted it to be good, but and it was fine. But now we get Zack Snyder, and I will also say, I like Zack Snyder. I haven't seen all of his work, but if we're talking Dawn of the Dead and 300, and those movies end my day, because if I'm flipping through the channels and I see either of those, well, I'm watching this. I had plans, but now I don't.
He's one of those guys where you just can't, even if you don't like his movies, you can't help but root for him just a little bit.
Right.
And I'm 50-50 on the ones I like and ones I don't like, but still every time it's come on, man, you can do this.
you root
pull through.
You can make a good movie, Zach. So I guess right off, I want to start with, I guess, the ambitiousness, because everyone is saying, when Justice League came out and it was whatever, and then it turned into release the Snyder Cut, because Zack had to back out, unfortunately, because of the death of his daughter. And from what I understand, IMDb, I think no footage in the new Justice League movie was anything that Joss Whedon shot. It was all stuff that Snyder shot. And there was only an extra 5 minutes of stuff that he reshot recently. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, he had a whole 4-hour movie in the can before Whedon took over, and obviously the effects and stuff like that weren't finished. But the only thing that was new was that epilogue with the Joker in the apocalyptic landscape.
By the way, spoilers.
Sorry.
No, I'm gonna lace the blog post about it, and everywhere we post it, I'm gonna say spoilers. So hopefully people read beforehand. But there are gonna be a little bit of spoilers here. So I honestly didn't even know that, because while watching the movie, I was like, I wonder what's new. That scene felt new, so it was just the ending that was new.
Yeah,
got it. Okay. Which makes the most sense, because all those pictures of Jared Leto came out and then everyone simultaneously cringed. But then we're like, oh, I guess it's not as bad as the Suicide Squad version.
It's still him.
Not a high bar to cross.
What were you saying, Alex?
It's still the same Jared Joker. He just grew more hair.
Got his
Like,
tattoos removed.
I don't really. Well, I felt like he was wearing a lot more paint.
Yep.
His skin was very smooth. Like there was a layer on there.
Yeah,
So-
it's a different look. It's very like Charlie Manson kind of
Yep.
cult leader.
So
He was working with what he had in the apocalypse, you know?
Right. Can't find a good barber out there anywhere. So he's like the rest of us. He can't get a fucking haircut.
Exactly. Yep.
I cut my own hair.
Alex, you were going to say?
I kind of don't know where I want to start with the whole thing. I guess there's with that last scene in that apocalyptic future. I feel more certain that the Joker is Robin.
Okay.
Because there were points in the past where like Batman still has one of Robin's costumes, but like it's spray painted with haha on it. And instead of just having a staff, like Robin had a staff with blades on it and shit. And instead of assuming that Joker just killed him, I think Robin became the Joker. And
I can see that, yeah.
some of the stuff that was getting said in that scene, like kind of like reaffirmed that position of like, this makes a little bit more sense. Instead of just being like, no, I killed someone close to you. It's like, no, I've killed a lot of people and you made me. Like,
And also I know who you are.
Your responsibility. Like more than any
They
Joker
give
has
it
been.
enough room that you could definitely like retrofit that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like that's the one piece of credit I'll give Zack Snyder. as far as planning a universe. Because as far as like planning goes, he's been garbage at it. And I've hated all the buildup because as each movie plays out, he's using things that he has not established, that he had a chance to and chose not to. And it just pisses me off. And it's not just like the comic book geek in me being like, well, what he actually didn't do. It's like, no, he established an opposite thing that's counter to what every comic book geek knows. And many ordinary fans who just know who Superman is, that they also know. For instance, when Superman gets revived and he decides he's going to go fight and you see him fly up into the atmosphere and he's doing his Jesus on the cross pose, absorbing sunlight, at no point in any of Zack Snyder's movies have he established that Superman gets his powers from the yellow sun. In Man of Steel, he gets it from the atmosphere. And that's why he didn't have powers on the Kryptonian ship, because it's a different atmosphere. That's what he chose.
Yeah, good point.
That's what he chose to run with. And so he had a whole Man of Steel movie to establish that like kryptonite's a thing that hurts him. But somehow Lex Luthor figures it out and Batman figures it out and uses it as a weapon. But that was never established that can hurt him. Just, we'll just toss it. We'll just toss it in there. It's a thing now. You didn't think of that, last time you made an entire movie about this guy? It's just it's new information.
Yeah, that's a big difference. They did not, either Snyder or the writers or the studio, I don't think they had an overarching plan for the whole universe. At least like not something that they could sow the seeds for what comes later.
And that's why I give so much credit to other series of movies, because you can see them planting these plot devices or planting these, these ideas or phrases or, power things. Like, yeah, sure. There's always like that Deus Ex Machina where it's like, well, this incredible thing we just discovered saves us all. Well, yeah, but sometimes you planted a seed 3 years ago and you're using it now. It's cool. We're kind of into that. And you had plenty of time to establish the rules and not just make new ones.
It's like the movies are like loosely tied together, kind of, despite the fact that like they feature all the same actors and they're in the same timeline. But yeah, because when we watch that movie, we know what he's doing, but like the casual fan who might not be familiar with how Superman gets his powers would just be like, "Oh, so he's just stunting,
he's
like
just
up in the atmosphere."
He's T-posing.
Just wants to feel the wind on him.
You know, he just wants to feel those solar winds because why not? But I did find that a little weird. I was like, wait, did they ever even explain that? Like, because I haven't seen Man of Steel, so I don't know what they kind of set up with that. Maybe they explained it back then, but I was like, have they ever even said like, oh, I need to recharge, BRB?
Not really, no. I think they took a lot for granted that we just knew the mythology just through decades of osmosis, I suppose.
Okay, maybe, but I feel like any knowledge that he had, he purposely threw out to change.
Right.
True. Yeah.
And like when you purposely say he gets his power from the atmosphere, it's like you're deliberately throwing out yellow sun.
Right. Which is a huge factor in like the Superman mythos and the whole different colored suns do different things to their DNA and all that. Like the reason why they weren't insanely strong on their home planet was because they orbited a red sun.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like they're like us. It's like if we went to another planet that had a red sun, I'm like, holy shit, look at our DNA.
Although I will say, like, within the DC comics, there's been 30 different stories of his origin. So,
right.
They all have the same, like, similar, 10 to 15-ish pages, but then they deviate. And you can't pick just one and be like, this is the real one. It's like, yeah, well, there's been 5 others that deviate a little bit, and we're going to go with those instead. And, like, everyone, the artists and writers get hired to write a new origin every couple of years. So I can't truly say, like, this is the exact right one, or, like, no, it was Brainiac's fault. It's like, no, it was the Army's fault. It's like, no, they just ignored the warnings of Krypton. It's like, it depends who the writer was and what year it is.
Yeah, so, but it could have been explained by a throwaway line or something like that. Just like one quick line of dialogue saying, "Oh yes, yellow sun, makes him strong."
Jared, as a very, like, you're kind of the friend that I have that knows film. You've made film, you've written film. What was your overall opinion before we like get really into the kind of nitty gritty of the Snyder Cut, and like, in terms of writing and things like that? Did you enjoy the film?
I enjoyed the film. Yes, yeah, it felt like a much more complete version of the film than the Whedon cut. The running time gave it the extra breathing room it needed to really develop as a story on its own. But it's interesting because, like, I wonder sometimes how much of my opinion is based just on the film itself or the context in which I'm seeing it. Like, would I have enjoyed it just as much if this is the one we saw back in 2017 without the baggage of there being another cut, of Snyder being kicked off the movie, or Snyder leaving the movie, and all the hype, all the online stuff, and then of course the pandemic too. But even without that conversation, I enjoyed it. I didn't think I would. Snyder, I think he's a good director, but Batman v Superman was probably one of the most what's the word? Unpleasant viewing experiences I've ever had. But that being said, yes, I thought it was a really good movie.
Batman Superman, for reference, a friend of mine, we used to go see a lot of movies together, and when we saw Batman Superman, his response was, I think I'm done. I think I'm good with superhero movies. And he hasn't watched one since. He hasn't watched any Marvel. He hasn't watched any DC. He was done with them. It's just, for him, it was oversaturation. and it's just too much to keep up with and all that. And he was done, which I get. I mean, I came out of Batman Superman. I was like, that wasn't awful, but it could have been obviously much better. But I think I vibe with what you're saying, Jared, in that I enjoyed the Snyder Cut of Justice League, but is it because of so many different factors, like you said, like with pandemic and the fact that I haven't been in a movie theater in over a year, and that I haven't seen very many new movies in the last year. I've been kind of rewatching old stuff, and also my wife and I have just been kind of going through the backlog of like, oh, what have I been meaning to watch? And whereas besides Snyder Cut, I think Wonder Woman may be the only new movie we saw this year. I'm probably wrong. Or no, we did watch Soul, and we did watch I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Right. Yeah.
But there wasn't a whole lot.
Might I recommend one? There's one on Apple TV. I think I don't know if you have that, but it's called Wolf Walkers. Definitely watch that.
Wolf Walkers.
Yes.
I'm gonna hold on. I'm taking notes because we've been doing Friday night movie night, and because we're old and boring.
I can almost guarantee you will love that one.
Dope. But as far as like the circumstances surrounding the movie, like, would I have gone to a theater and sat through a 4+ hour movie? No, I would not have done that.
That's where we differ.
I mean, I definitely went to the marathon when Dark Knight Rises came out, and they played the previous two Christian Bale Batmans before it. For at least 9 hours, right? That was a 9-hour viewing.
Yeah, I think so.
We had breaks in between, but I wore my my cargo pants and stuffed burgers and tacos in my in my pockets.
A friend of mine is a huge Star Wars fan, and when Force Awakens came out, Force Awakens, I can't remember if it was the first new one or the second. It was the first new one, I believe. He went to the marathon, where they played episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then you saw Force Awakens. And even he said, "This guy, I have never met someone into something as much as this man is into Star Wars. It's really neat." And even he was like, "I will never do that again." He's like, just based on the smell alone in the theater, no thanks. But anyways, yeah. So the movie was 4 hours, and I guess I'm taking forever to wrap up the exact same thing Jared said. Is, would have I enjoyed it without all the circumstances? The fact that there haven't been a lot of movies this year, I had the leisure of watching it at home at my couch, in chunks, and there was so much around it, with the fact that we already had a Justice League and we're getting a recut version and all that stuff. So I'm not sure. But I will say that having viewed it in this fashion, I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. I laughed a lot. Again, I laughed a lot at the first one. I remember saying to all my friends, I was like, that was a lot funnier than I expected.
Yeah. Just on a basic cinematic level, it is fascinating, especially if you've seen the Whedon cut, just to compare and contrast, like, just the thousands of tiny details that make up a movie can make or break a movie.
I was going to ask this question. Now, when you guys watched it, were you watching it as something new and like trying to separate the last one, or were you constantly making comparisons?
I couldn't help myself. I was making comparisons the whole time. I'm just, it's just involuntary at this point.
If someone hadn't seen either of them, would you recommend them to watch one first and then the other, or just not to watch one of them?
If someone was going in cold, I would still recommend the Snyder Cut.
Okay.
Because that is a more like complete vision of the film, of what Snyder was going for.
Mm-hmm.
And the Whedon cut, like, it's not terrible, but it's kind of a Frankenstein movie. Like, you can see the scene. You can see the seams. Even seeing that by itself, you can very much tell what's new and what's not Snyder.
That there was stuff missing, like.
Yes.
It's like, well, I guess for as long as we've been spoiled, like a while ago, if you showed us a movie and be like, okay, there's 12 main characters in this movie, and you're only going to get decent characterization and plot and background on like 3 of them. And
right.
That's what we ended up getting with the Joss Whedon, where it's like, Flash who? Cyborg who? And we did get a lot more of them in the Snyder Cut, although it's debatable if it made them better characters or not.
It made them more compelling, I'd say. Having the space to have that scene with, like, say, the hot dog cart and the Flash, that made it better, I'd say. I don't know if it's like the ideal version of the character, but it made it more compelling.
It's tough because, like, part of me and Ezra Miller's version of the Flash, like, I thought he was hilarious. I enjoy what they did with the Flash, but also I'm like, who is this? Is this Barry Allen? Like, is this the Barry Allen that I've come to like know in the comics, or is this like? It almost felt like, here's Peter Parker if he was the Flash.
Right.
But I guess it's not really a bad thing because, again, I enjoyed the interpretation. I liked Ezra Miller. It was funny. I also Billy Crudup. Put Billy Crudup in more movies, please.
Seriously.
I like he's got a good way of talking, you know. And also, does that confirm the fact that Dr. Manhattan is in this universe? Because they're both DC properties.
Probably not.
I'm just saying, he was Dr. Manhattan. It can happen. Don't ruin this for me.
Does that mean Alfred was Ozymandias too?
Yeah, I said that to my wife. I was like, dude, we're getting quite the crossover here. I did want to, I guess, speaking of the Flash, because we're just jumping around everywhere. And I was having this conversation with some friends of mine, actually some friends of the show with Colin, Zack, and Ken. We were talking about how, is there a better way to portray super speed than slow motion? Because it's, like if you've seen Days of Future Past, it's like, oh, hey, here's super speed, and we're going to show how fast he is by slowing everything down. And they did. Go ahead.
See, that's a question where if you asked it to Zack Snyder, he would throw you out a window.
And I was like, isn't that kind of Zack Snyder's thing? Because I hadn't even seen it at this point. So they were doing their best to not spoil stuff for me while also discussing it. But having seen it now, I can be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Because like pretty much most of the things, most of the time when Flash moves very fast, to really show you what's happening with Flash, everything else has got to slow down. And he's kind of moving at normal speed in a way. Which honestly, like, I mean, I don't even make movies. I can't think of a better way to do it. And like you said, it's Zack Snyder. So
the biggest one that comes to mind would probably be The Incredibles, especially in that chase scene when they're on the island
with Dash. Yeah,
like that's when they just showed it at normal speed and you got that like real sense of exhilaration. But I don't know how you do that in live action. Right. That's the problem.
That's
without making it look goofy.
That you
speaking of, oh, go ahead.
You used one word, and that redefined my thought process. Because whenever they're going to show you the super speed person moving in slow motion, it looks relaxing. It's calming. You're being entertained. Everyone else is standing still and moving really slow. The fast person is moving fast. Whereas if I'm going to watch someone be really fast, it should be exhilarating. It should get your heart rate up. You should be freaking out because this is impossible.
Yeah.
It should be way more intense.
Right. But is that if you're going like the speed of a jet engine or the speed of light? That's harder.
Yeah.
I guess you have to set your boundaries as you're telling the story.
So much of the Flash TV show is just red blurs doing stuff. Because it's often they're chasing each other through Central City or Keystone City. And so you don't see like a lot of fight scenes. You just see them racing through streets or, wherever. And I guess video games manage to show, fast-paced punching and it's not as much of a blur, but it's more of like disappear, reappear. And
yeah, like the Dragon Ball Z thing.
Yeah.
Where they just like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's
not that I have that much experience with visual effects, but I imagine one process would be much cheaper than the other.
Right. Yeah.
At some points, were you guys convinced Flash was swimming and not running?
Kinda.
The way he was moving his arms, it's like he would like throw his arm forward instead of just pumping. Like that was what was giving his speed instead of actually using his legs to run.
I was gonna say when Jared mentioned The Incredibles, I was like, also another throwback. Maybe this is in the Incredibles universe because the way he ran reminded me of how Frozone would like move and throw ice as he like skated along.
Yeah.
He looked just like Frozone. It was an interesting like I don't want to say design choice, but like
gliding through space.
Yeah, like they obviously had to say like, okay, this is how you're gonna run when you're in the Speed Force or using the Speed Force or whatever. And because like he did it every time. It wasn't just like, here's Usain Bolt running. This is how a runner looks. It was like skating mixed with swimming.
Did you guys see the Animatrix?
Yeah, I saw it like way long time ago.
Okay, in one of those, there's a scene with like a track star, and he's running away from agents or running to win the race. And the way they animated him like running and pumping his legs and using his muscles, it appeared the way it feels like when I try to run in a dream. If you've ever been able to like not throw a punch in a dream or like try to run, like you can pull your legs up really fast, but you can't put them down to gain any leverage and traction. And that's the way they animated him running. So I guess I kind of feel an element of that was borrowed for this Flash.
They must have had him. They must have had his harness on his hip or somewhere on his torso, because it would give him more latitude when he's running to just be more free with his limbs.
Right.
Or he just doesn't know how to run.
He's just doing this again. All right, just roll. God damn.
I guess.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if we're staying on characters, do you have any more Flash talk, Alex?
No, I was gonna shift to speed talk.
Okay.
Because when we saw Wonder Woman fighting those terrorists, and Snyder speeds up some of her fights because she's super fast and super strong, and so she can move that fast in order to block bullets with her bracers, her gauntlets. But I like watching her do cool shit in slower motion than that. It's like I want to see her fight scene last 3 minutes. I don't want her fight scene to last 40 seconds because she does a lot of cool stuff and I want to watch it all happen. It's like cutting away from giant monster fights. It's like, oh, it's Godzilla.
It's the one time Snyder didn't do slow motion.
The Godzilla fight. Let's look at humans' reactions. No. Look, it's Transformers fighting. Let's watch the human run away. It's like I paid money to watch a Transformers fight. So it's like, can you just show me Wonder Woman doing cool shit, please? And not like if I blink, I'll miss half the guys being beaten up and bashed around.
She just like brained 3 of them onto a wall.
Yo, she obliterated that last guy. He is vaporized.
She fucking nuked him. Like they were trying to blow up the building, but she just blew it up.
She also blew up the building. So
she did it in the name of justice, though.
But I didn't see it recently. I didn't like rewatch the Whedon version, but his version wasn't sped up. Like we got to see Wonder Woman do stuff in, more visually easy to understand timing.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
I wonder if the trade-off was like, okay, I'm going to speed this up, but you're going to get more of it. Like there's every fight scene had at least one moment of like, you know, wailing operatic music. Diana shows up, makes a badass pose, says a cool line or whatever, and then fucks someone up. So maybe it was like the compromise of maybe we were gonna have to speed this part up, but you're gonna get a lot. You're gonna get a bunch of it, like it's quantity over quality.
And she got more women chanting than her guitar riff.
Yep. Maybe was the guitar riff saved? Is the guitar riff saved for Wonder Woman movies specifically? And then she gets chanting in Justice League movies.
there was a little bit of the guitar thing.
There was, yeah.
Not as much though. I think just in the museum scene.
Right. I will say Gal Gadot is amazing. I love Wonder Woman. I'm glad that they seem to focus more on the development. And I guess when you have a 4-hour movie, you're bound to have some development.
Get an extra 10 minutes on that scene in Themyscira.
Right. See, that's also one of the beauties that you mentioned earlier, Alex, with the different, like the two cuts and stuff. Like I have the I don't want to say it's the benefit. I tend to forget a lot of shit like that I've seen, you know, from a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to tell me like, what's the story of Whedon's Justice League? I'd be like, Steppenwolf. And at one point, Aquaman sits on the lasso, and there's a funny moment.
There's some Russian family somewhere.
Yeah, I don't remember the plot. Was there a mother box in the first one?
Yes.
I don't remember. Maybe I should probably see a doctor, but so like a lot of it was just like, oh, I vaguely remember this scene, but it feels fresh. And I guess kind of sticking on the characters, and the main thing was we had significantly more Cyborg, which has been it's been in the news with Ray Fisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that his name? Yes. Has been speaking out, saying, talking about his experience working with Joss Whedon and how it was a very bad experience and a bad environment. More and more people have come forward saying, reiterating and saying, yes, this is on par with what I experienced. And a lot of people said that, not a lot of people said, I think it's kind of confirmed that there was a lot of Cyborg footage that just got thrown out. And seeing it now,
sequences, yeah.
Right. We see so much more character development. We see so much more of relationship with his father, which that guy just doesn't age, apparently. Remember when he was in Terminator 2?
That's the guy?
Do not let him in your lab.
Right.
Good Lord.
Okay, but would it be worse if he wasn't there? He might have fixed and saved a lot of stuff. Maybe.
But they always end up exploding. That's the problem.
Yep. For better or for worse. But we did get a lot more Cyborg, which I believe was a good thing. I like Cyborg. I liked that we got more of it. I liked that we had some development. I don't remember how in depth they went into like how he came to be Cyborg in the first one, aside from my dad wanted to save me. I don't remember.
That's really as far as it went, I think.
Yeah, like in this one we see like how he saved him, and like I don't know. I thought more Cyborg was a good thing.
I don't think his mom existed in the last version.
No, not at all. Maybe like a line of dialogue just implying something, but no, they cut so much out of that. And the first cut really suffers too, because he's kind of the backbone of the movie. Like he's more of an audience surrogate than maybe even the Flash.
And he's made of the weapon they're trying to deal with. Right.
And apparently he can like launch nukes and manipulate the stock market too, which is pretty badass. Which the image they used to convey that of a giant bull and a bear fighting,
incredible.
Awesome. You got to give him credit.
Yep. I I thought it was a book. Can you just from a, you know how like you can't help but be like, oh come on, like in the real world, like can you imagine someone who just woke up and they're now they're a cyborg and they have all this new information available to them, and one of the first things you tell them is you have the ability to do anything you want. You could destroy the entire planet literally just by thinking about it. You could steal everyone's money just by thinking about it. You could do all these terrible things. So hope you don't.
Glad you don't hate me.
It's so
you seem like you've been a good person. So
I watched the movie with my girlfriend who hadn't seen any of the previous movies. And I was trying to like keep her updated and be like, oh, this was different and that was different, but not to an annoying degree. But when they're first attacking Steppenwolf and they have Batman's Nightcrawler tank walking spider thing,
his little crab boy,
yeah, his crabby boy. I was like, okay. So in this scene, it was like Wonder Woman's doing cool stuff, Batman's doing cool stuff, Flash is there, and Cyborg, you drive the thing. That's it. You sit in the cockpit and you catch up because you're driving the thing. That's it. You're not doing anything else. And now it was like, oh, it was autopiloted. How convenient. in the Snyder version.
Right.
It's like you don't have to
he
take
eventually hops in.
Well, yeah, but that's for a reason, not just to get rid of him. To take him out of frame on purpose. I was more okay with his design in this one because I feel like he had a weird shapeless armor nonsense in the Whedon cut.
It's very busy.
Yeah,
it's hard to get like a good hold on it.
It was busy and it was weird angles that at no point has ever been Cyborg, and it's the kind of thing that I've seen imitated in other media and it just pisses me off. Whereas the Snyder version, he had more like reason, like all his cyborg parts and armor and metal, whatever. It made a little bit more sense than just being an amorphous blob of shiny.
I guess in the Whedon version, and like Googling it now, it looks a little more like faithful to the comic, where I don't know if the comic really like pulling it off, and I think it shows that you got to change it up a little bit.
So hang on,
to like
at the very end of the Whedon one, he reshapes his armor. That's the thing he's doing in a lab with his dad, and he's like reshaping it, and it's actually taking form. And there's when it becomes more true to the comic and more true to the Titans cartoons.
Gotcha. That's exactly what I'm looking at. So because again, I can't remember what it looks like.
It's like, oh yeah, I should actually look like something feasible now, and not just a massive garbage.
That's not just a tinfoil robot.
One thing, if we're kind of sticking with characters, I did want to mention one thing that I guess not a criticism. Hey, yeah, it's a criticism. And again, a pretty big spoiler for those who haven't seen it yet. The appearance of Martian Manhunter. Now, again, you may have to remind me, he wasn't in the first one, yeah?
Nope.
No. Yeah.
Not even hinted at.
And then he just shows up halfway through, pretending to be Ma Kent and getting Lois Lane, to get off her butt, get back to doing the news. And my wife and I were discussing it. It was like, what was that? Why did that happen? Was it just like your typical, like Alex said, your ex machina, like, we need to get Lois in this convenient location for when Superman comes back to life?
Oh, I saw that as sequel dollars.
I mean, then you could just leave in like the epilogue scene with him.
I think that and the epilogue scene were also stuff that he shot.
Right.
Because the guy who was like when he changed into the army guy after becoming Ma Kent, that actor was in Man of Steel. Like he was a
Okay.
major character in that movie,
Right.
but at no point was it even alluded to that he would be Martian Manhunter. I think I think literally someone brought it up online to Zack Snyder's like, could this guy be Martian Manhunter? And he's like, oh, okay. Shit,
I'm
why
gonna use
not?
that? That's mine now. And
So-
also, going back to what we discussed previously with the whole like, we're gonna drop in comic bits that kind of comic book people would only under, like Superman getting recharged by the sun, but then in the very end, you can call me the Martian Manhunter. Why don't just say John Jones? Like,
There are Martians now?
yeah, if I were Batman and someone said, "Oh, I'm the Martian Manhunter," I'd be like, "So we're fighting?
Yeah.
So we have to fight right now?"
If I'm Batman and Martian Manhunter shows up at my door and he's like, all right, I'm leaving, I'll be in touch. Like, I'm not going to start a file. I'm not going to interrogate him. I'm not going to need to know everything about him. Like,
Right.
I've got a lot of questions that we're going to talk about right this moment. It's like, oh,
Hide.
okay, bye. Bye, green dude who's new.
I just
If-
learned Martians exist, and I'm just gonna kind of walk away.
Going to go back to bed.
If the reports I read are true, that was not when they shot the scene for Affleck. That was not who the character was scripted as. It was going to be Hal Jordan. That
Huh.
they shot it as it was scripted with Bruce Wayne talking to Ryan Reynolds, Hal Jordan, but that didn't go. I don't think that went as well as they wanted it to, so they just changed it to Martian Manhunter.
Not only meeting an alien, or I mean, I guess that's common now, meeting this alien, he just woke up from a horribly prophetic dream, which is
Right.
terrifying. And then be like,
Oh, wait,
this,
they're
this,
Martians
this,
now.
this is still fine. These two things happen back to back, and I'm okay with it.
He's Batman, he's got to compartmentalize and work through it. He's got bigger fish to fry. I don't know. I can't talk, but
So-
it just felt kind of like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm psyched to see Martian Manhunter in a live action movie. Like the dude deserves it. It just felt, the scene with Lois felt kind of weird. And then the ending, like, it was like cool. Yeah. Again, sequel dollars. I get it. But just to have it, like, I was expecting him to be like, you can call me John Jones or the Martian Manhunter, but just to be like straight up, my name is the Martian Manhunter. I was like, oh, okay. I guess that's the route we're going.
The benefit of watching it with someone who hasn't seen everything before, or who doesn't have like a deep understanding of the DC universe. By deep, I mean borderline obsessive. I don't know. But so the whole talk with Martha Kent and Lois Lane, and my girlfriend turns to me, she goes, okay, so why is Lois Lane so important? I'm like, oh, her writing will inspire the people who read the news. We need news because she's reasons. And there was another one of those too. I'm trying to think, what does Martian Manhunter do? And I go, well, he's super strong and pretty tough, and he could fly, and he's fast, and he can also shape change and has brain powers. And she's like, so
Read minds.
she's like, it's so he's pretty much kind of like Superman. I go, yep. And she goes, why isn't he just join the fight and beat the bad guys? I'm like, don't know.
Do you know nothing about the movie business?
Sticking with, as far as like the Lois stuff goes,
Mhm.
and I get that it's not a Superman movie, so there's only so many times you can get Lois in there. I feel like a lot of the times it was like, oh, right, we have like one of the greatest actresses of our generation on the payroll. We should probably give her some scenes.
Hey, go be sad.
Right. You've been
Get it?
nominated for 6 Oscars. How do you feel about rifling through this box of photos?
Oh, hang on. Okay, so Superman's a thing. He saves some people. His dad says maybe don't so much. That's a thing that happened. Maybe don't save everyone. He kind of does. He stands still looking at people a lot who worship him as a god. He gets in a fight with a dude. He gets in a fight with the same dude again, but he's a mutated monster now. Eventually he dies. Now, we had 2 movies to get here, I felt more emotion when Groot died in Guardians of the Galaxy. I cried. I was a little teary, even though I know he's a tree who can come back from a twig. But I felt more emotion for Groot than I felt for Superman. So trying to show me, look at this person mourning Superman, and I'm sitting here like, I don't get it. Why should I feel anything? I don't feel anything for Superman. Like, I'm a little more sad Clark Kent's dead, I guess. But they didn't.
I think one of the.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go.
No. I think that's one of my biggest issues with Snyder's interpretation of the whole universe, because I think just as a person, he fundamentally does not like the concept of Superman. Like, I hate reading into specific politics of different directors, stuff like that, but it's hard to get a pin on where this guy stands. Like, if you ask like what his stance on certain issues are, but you can tell like there's a certain hostility to that idea of Superman, especially like since he's made Watchmen, since he's made stuff like 300. But he worships Frank Miller. He's a big Ayn Rand fan, but even to that point, like maybe that's why this is probably the best DC movie he's done, because he doesn't have to focus just on Superman, a character I think he just does not like that much.
We could see it when it happened in the movie, but I was watching a review many years ago of Man of Steel, and there's the point where he manages to like explode a hole in Zod's spaceship and fall back to Earth, and as he's falling out of this hole through the atmosphere, he's doing this crucifix pose, and in the background of the review article I was watching, it was quiet and it got louder, and it was just going, "I am Jesus! I am Jesus!" And it's like he's trying to hint at something. You see what he's doing there? And he did it again when he flew up to absorb more yellow sun. And it's like, yeah, he died and he came back from the dead. You don't have to force this symbolism through this fictional character. Like, yeah. That's not what I personally want, but I guess you could. I know some directors like to hide that in parts of their movies, or at least use the imagery. But
the man is not subtle. Like, no, I don't think so. No, but I just think like he has this instinct when dealing with this character to kind of like deflate the mythology. Like, okay, he doesn't kill. Okay, he's gonna snap Zod's neck. He's beloved by everyone normally. No, everyone's gonna like hate him because he blew up a city. You know, stuff like that. But this time, I don't think he was as inclined to do so, because he'd already fucking killed him. Mm-hmm. And you know, I've noticed a common thread in a lot of his movies. He tends to enjoy mythological, almost what's the word? He definitely has an obsession with like antiquity, with classical art, and like ancient mythology, and he just like he has a very specific style. If you get him on a movie, then he's going to apply that no matter what. He made a children's movie about owls, and he still made it in that exact style. So, I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
No.
It's called
which one?
Legend of the Guardians.
Okay.
I know the books because I used to sell them all the time, but I've never seen the movie.
Yeah, he made that somewhere between, I think, sometime after Watchmen, and it's supposed to be like a young adult kind of movie about cartoon owls, but it is a Zack Snyder movie through and through.
So who else besides me was just reminded that Zack Snyder made Watchmen? Because I completely forgot.
Oh no, that's stuck. Like he made Watchmen. Like he discovered comics, discovered Watchmen, made Watchmen, and is now convinced that every comic book is Watchmen. So whatever the comedian does to bad guys, whatever Rorschach does to bad guys, that's what everyone does to bad guys. Because like I went on a rant of like Jason Todd would never have happened because he would try to steal the Batmobile's tires, and Batman would beat him into a coma, which he would never come out of for 20 years. So he would never have a second Robin. Like he would throw Lois Lane into Gotham Bay and drown her for investigating all of these Bat murders. Oh, there's a purse snatcher, and Batman catches him. The purse snatcher's like, okay, I give up. Here, have the purse back. And Batman decides to gut him and decorate the alley with his entrails. Like that's the Zack Snyder Batman. That's what he is. I'm not exaggerating. I'm convinced. And I just don't.
And Snyder Superman probably would have turned Luthor into like a fine pink mist. Very early on.
Poofed him very quickly. I mean, wouldn't you, seeing Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor, you're like, okay, stop. And I like Jesse Eisenberg. I was actually excited. I was like, yo, Eisenberg is Luthor? Okay, all right. And then the movie happened, and I was like, oh God, Eisenberg is Luthor.
That was Eisenberg as Luthor and Max Landis.
Yeah.
I think that was a direct inspiration for the role.
Yeah. Remember Max Landis? Anyways, yeah, we don't need to.
So I have another throwback.
Throw it back.
When we first saw the CW Flash's costume, and what's his name? Grant Gustin? Is that right? The actor?
No, that's a great question.
Anyway, so the first batch of pictures that were released was Grant like doing a lot of weird poses, like weird jumps, just flailing around, looked kind of silly. And people were making fun of it because they hated it. They're like, no, he's a superhero and he should look serious. And I'm like, yo, if you've ever seen the first X-Men movies behind the scenes, the X-Men's like suits were so tight and restrictive. They looked real cool standing still, but like when they had to rush up the island to go attack the Statue of Liberty to stop Magneto, they couldn't like step over a 2-foot stone wall. They
were like frozen.
They couldn't really move. Like Wolverine tried to hop and like almost scuffed his leg, and Bryan Singer, remember Bryan Singer? He was like, whoa, is that okay? And meanwhile, so remembering that of how they could barely move in those things. And now like we get to see the Flash like actually in running poses, falling down, like doing a lot of stuff because his suit's a little bit looser. I'm cool with that. Where was I going with this? Batman. At any point did Batman look comfortable?
Yeah.
Like he's leaning against the car. He just got, eye lasered by Superman. And he's like kind of like laying there and like just that reclined position looks uncomfortable. Not because like he got thrown across a pond, because he can't do anything in that suit. It doesn't fit him. It looks awkward.
It looks padded, yeah. It looks like they had to add a little extra because they wanted to make him seem swole in comparison to the others, just because he doesn't have superpowers.
Anytime he actually did stuff, I didn't believe it. Like there was a cool thing where like he hopped down a stairwell and like into the Batmobile, and I'm like, that wasn't him. That was either that was completely CGI or was a stuntman wearing nothing like what that is.
I did want more Batman. I thought there was, I don't know if it was intentional or not, in that everyone kind of got their cool moments, and then it's Batman just kind of, he punched 3 or 4 people and then shot a bunch, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
I wanted more Batman, and like it did seem like they were going for the, not seem, again, I keep like using speculative terminology, but it was pretty obvious, like the whole Dark Knight Returns type of Batman, like rather than the lean Christian Bale, I'm slick and smooth and beat the shit out of you quickly and efficiently. It's more of a jacked, a big old burly, like I'm just gonna punch you as hard as I can, and then I'll happen to pick up a gun and just shoot the shit out of everyone.
which doesn't really work if you're against parademons and Steppenwolf. Just punching your way through it.
Right.
I think that comes down to the writing too. They can't, in that context, he's not like a physical threat, so he needs to be either like smarter or stealthier or something, but
yeah.
They just didn't write it that way, unfortunately.
It's real tough to write either a comic book or a movie, whichever, have Batman deal with alien threats, super people who are 100 times stronger than him. The entire world is at stake. He has to deal with stopping Darkseid or Bizarro by himself or something, and he's him in the JLA saved the entire world from an invading force, and then he has to go back to Gotham and be like, oh no, it's the Penguin. How is he gonna stop the Penguin? He's really in trouble now. It's like, you just fought a horde of white Martians, dude. Like,
yeah, you have to write it so he's like 10 steps ahead of everyone, and laying out the master plan, so he looks like the smartest guy alive. That's the only other. I don't know how else he do it.
Yeah.
One thing, and oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna move on to the bad guys. What do you got?
Yep. I was not going to go anywhere near that, but I like where you're going better.
The first time we saw the comparisons between old Steppenwolf and new Steppenwolf, a friend said they didn't like it because it just looked like they used like a Photoshop filter and just layered all kinds of metal moving junk on them. But then watching it, I think I liked it better. Because he was able to be expressive through this weird armor rather than just a guy who has some strange plate mail.
I very much enjoyed Steppenwolf, and that's coming from like, even in the first one, it's like the bad guy's Steppenwolf, and like Alex, I believe we talked about this. Like, Steppenwolf, how many people even know who Steppenwolf is, dude? Like, and you can always make the argument, like, how many people know who Ivan Vanko is, or whatever, Venko from the second Iron Man. I don't know who that is. I don't know who Whiplash is. But like, Steppenwolf was a interesting choice. And even in the Snyder Cut, I spent the first like 10 minutes of the movie thinking, okay, what is his name? It's not
Wolf.
Obviously,
something?
It's not Darkseid.
Wolfgang.
It's not
Beowulf.
It's not Orion.
Beowulf.
It's not. I was trying to I was going through all like the people, and then I was like, oh fuck yeah, Steppenwolf. Okay, Jesus Christ. But with that said, I thought he was dope. I thought he was like menacing enough. He beat the shit out of everyone. He had a badass axe.
He threw a horse.
He threw a horse, literally. And I don't know if it was the same voice actor who played him, but whoever did, man, I very much enjoyed the voice and the way he was presented. I really liked Steppenwolf.
That was the voice.
Who knew I'd ever say that?
Kieran Hines. He's a good actor. Yeah, and he was the same in both movies.
Gotcha. Yep.
Before I saw it, I had a little bit spoiled where a friend said how when his armor retracts and like his head is actually shaped like that, and I was like, no way.
Oh my god. Best sight gag in like the last 10 years. I was laughing so hard.
And then Superman just lasers off half of his head.
Alex, did you get any specifically from Steppenwolf's armor? Now that you mention it, I got pretty big Destroyer vibes from it.
You know, I didn't have any of that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because we're big fans of the Destroyer on this show.
It's been so long since I've seen the Destroyer. Did we see who Steppenwolf was talking to in the Whedon cut?
No.
Don't
he
remember.
was just kind of talking to himself.
So as soon as that melty form with the hood appears, and I'm like, oh, that's Desaad. Yo, F Desaad. That dude's a punk. But it made sense that like that's who he's talking to.
Right.
I was kind of surprised we got so much Darkseid.
Yep.
Like, I didn't expect to have... we never saw Darkseid in the Whedon version. All we got was, like, kind of a shadow that was backlit. We didn't really see all of them. It's like, the fans knew who he would be, but other people's like, what is that? I don't... And
Yeah.
I get the appeal of, this is a secret we'll reveal to you later. Like, this is a secret between us. You know, and he'll get a big reveal in the future at some point. But as far as him, like, coming to Earth to take it over and being driven away, I was like, yo, they made Darkseid a bitch. What?
They really did.
I was shocked.
I said that exact same thing to my wife.
I could not believe it. And we
He
only
got his ass beat so hard he forgot he was there.
It was, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, I wonder how are they going to drive him back? Like, he's just going to give up? But no,
any second
straight
now,
up-
he's going to Omega Beam like half the continent. It'll be fine.
right?
It turns out Zeus was there. Literal
Yeah.
fucking Zeus.
They had the Zeus and although Green Lantern again, man, Green Lantern can't catch a break in these movies.
I watched someone else's review quickly. They brought back the actor from Wonder Woman to be Ares, who delivered that axe chop.
Huh.
Yeah.
David Thewlis.
Yeah.
He was badass. That chop. I mean, Darkseid is one of my favorite villains in general. I very much like Darkseid. I want an Omega tattoo somewhere on my body. I like him a lot. So to see and like to compare it to the other guys, when was the first time we saw Thanos was
it was Avengers 1.
Tease at the end of the Avengers.
Yeah. And we just saw him smile. Whereas we had a bunch of big old bunch of Darkseid.
Mhm.
He talked, he fought, he showed up and it was great. It wasn't just a bunch of teases or minions fighting for him. Like we did get, I think, one Omega Beam,
Just the one.
which
Just
was
one, yeah.
which was pretty nice.
Not
but-
enough. I want more.
Yeah, give me more Omega Beams. Speaking of, did you see the callback to Final Crisis? I think
No.
when in one of the visions that Batman or whoever had the vision, I can't remember who it
Cyborg
was.
had one too.
Cyborg, yeah, and Superman was holding like the corpse, and I was like, "Yo, is that Final Crisis? Is he holding Batman?"
I
Which
think it was supposed to be Lois.
I think so too.
oh, was it?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch! I thought it was Bruce, and I thought we were getting like
It was just
Final
a skeleton. There was nothing on it.
right.
Because then
I mean, it's probably for the best because from what I understand, Final Crisis is not fun.
when we see him holding Batman's mask, I was convinced his head was still in there, like as a trophy.
He was just gonna punt it like a football.
Yeet.
As you do.
Throws it into the sun, yeah.
Yeah,
When-
Darkseid getting punked out was pretty intense, and like I was okay with it. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. But it did show, they reinforced how strong he actually is, and he still managed, even while getting annihilated by a bunch of gods. He's still feared, and he's still a big deal.
After, I think it was, if not the epilogue, then as soon as the portal closes, and even like Decide is talking shit, and I'm like, how dare that weasel talk to Darkseid that way?
Right.
And he's just gonna take it? I didn't believe that either.
I think the only person who can talk to Darkseid like that is probably Mr. Miracle.
I did like that they threw Granny Goodness in there.
Right, and was that Orion behind him?
I didn't.
Is Orion
Orion was raised by Darkseid,
right?
but he went back to the New Gods.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I was hoping for Calabac. I did not see anyone who resembled Calabac there.
Yeah. Maybe next time. Maybe in the future movies. But I did want to point out before we go too long. One thing I wanted to talk about was the time itself. The fact that This movie was 4+ hours long. I think this makes it the longest movie I've ever seen. I think the previous record was The Irishman, which even then, The Irishman took me 3 sittings to watch because it's not as long. No shit.
Yeah.
Damn. Jared likes movies. Because The Irishman isn't as long as this movie, but it's dialogue. There's not the action, there's not the crazy stunts and the CGI. Well, there was CGI in The Irishman, but it's dialogue. It's great dialogue. It's amazing and don't get me wrong, I very much enjoyed The Irishman. It took me a couple sittings because I'd be like, okay, I'm good for tonight. And talking with friends about this, like, it was, when you start, I'm going to watch it in chunks. We were all like planning out when we were going to, how we were going to watch it. Like the couple brave souls who were like, I'm going to watch it all in one sitting. And I remember at one point, our friend Zack was like, I'm starting part 3 tonight. And then like the next day he's like, starting part 5 tonight. And I thought he was just joking around. I legitimately thought he was like ribbing us. Like, and then when me and my wife sit down to go watch it, I was like, oh no, this is actually broken up into parts. And I really like that because my wife and I, we will watch TV if we're eating lunch or if we're eating dinner or whatever, we'll put on an episode of whatever we're watching. We just finished The Sopranos. By the way, watch The Sopranos because it's awesome.
Will do. I still have yet to do that.
It was Edie Falco, one of the best actresses on the planet. Holy shit, she was so good. She stole that show like from everyone. But it was I liked that I could sit down and watch it in parts. Like we watched the first 3 on like the first night, and then like we broke up the next 3 or 4 or whatever, including the epilogue, over the next like day and a half. And it was enjoyable. It was nice, and it brought me back to a tweet that I saw from I don't know how to spell this. Llama in a tux, got it. And it said, no movie can be so good that I will sit for 4 hours and watch it. It's simply too long. It should be 8 30-minute episodes, which I will watch end to end without interruption.
Yeah.
And that kind of put me in my place because I'm like, I sit here bitching about how, oh my God, 4 hours? Are you serious? Like, come on. But I'm also the same person who watched all 4 episodes of Chernobyl in one sitting last year, which I think was at least 4 hours, possibly more. And that was easy. By the way, watch Chernobyl because it's amazing.
Kind of hurt.
What, Chernobyl?
Yeah. You
watched it?
Yeah. Like here, just quickly, living through 2020 and watching a series where people in charge say what is currently happening is not actually happening. Yeah. Really was a problem for me.
The propaganda
we got that just in time for our own, huh?
Yeah.
It literally yep. It was great. But anyways, yeah, I very much liked that it was split up like that. I think it, at least for current viewing of movies, and especially a movie of that length, it was very much welcome, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that all the great movies are either 90 minutes or less or 3 hours or more. And people who don't sit through them in one sitting are cowards. This is a joke, of course.
T2 was 2 hours.
What's up?
Terminator 2 is 2 hours.
Okay, well, that's good for you then. But, no, I really do like long movies. I think I'm in the opposite because I love long movies and I can't stand binging shows, and I don't know why.
Huh.
Right.
But because like I watched this in 2 sittings, which it works pretty well. The chapter breaks are really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But I do tend to watch like a lot of like really boring art movies. Which I did a lot of during the pandemic. Not gonna lie. There's one I saw called Satan Tango, which is like a black and white Hungarian movie about very depressed people, and it's 7 hours long.
Good God.
I would recommend it. It's a good movie. But I know not everyone has that same opinion, but I think this kind of proves my point that most, sorry, let me repeat that. I think this gave it the opportunity to really breathe in a way that it would not have done even in theaters, because I know that the studio mandated that they have a 2-hour cut, which was never going to work with this material, which is probably why they reshot so much of it. And maybe it would have worked as a 3-hour movie because there's a lot of slow motion. But again, like, I don't think it would have been as complete an experience that we get as a 4-hour movie that we can just kind of watch at our own leisurely pace. I think people would have gotten very impatient if they had to watch it in a theater. And I don't, and again, it's one of those things where you ask, like, is the context in which I'm seeing it better or worse for it?
Right.
But yes.
Movies.
Long movies, god damn it.
I want to keep going. How do we feel about the color differences? Because a lot of Snyder films are they're darker, or the tones are a bit muted, and even the Whedon version, like, things were bright. The difference in Mara's costumes from Snyder's Justice League to the Aquaman movie, it's blinding practically.
Yeah.
And when, like I said before, when he made Watchmen, he's like, okay, so everything's just like Watchmen. Things are darker, things are less colorful. Dude, these are comic books. They're colorful for a reason. Like, I'm okay that he didn't put Superman back in the blue and red, but there's a lot of people working on it. Like, when you design Flash's costume, are you going to design it like kind of dark, or are you going to give him the bright red and yellow? And I feel like it lost some of its heroism because he had to stick to, his style of muting a lot of tones and keeping it dark and broody and whatever.
It's like they have to walk that fine line of like with the first X-Men, where it's like, what would you prefer, yellow spandex? It's how comic booky do we want to make this versus we have to show, if this happened today, if this happened right now, how would these people maybe look? But I think I agree. It just might be part of Snyder's vision in that, he likes the darker things, but I would have liked some more color, some more pop, some, like, just a little bit more out of it. But I'm just the armchair director. But yeah, and I never even thought of the Mira thing until you just mentioned it. Like, she was like green in Aquaman.
She's glowing, like, practically.
Yeah, she was really popping, and now it's just like I had to until they like named her, like, oh, that is Mira. Oh, right, yeah, okay, Amber Heard. She kind of sucks. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, you hire Zack Snyder for a movie, he's gonna give you that style.
You're gonna get Zack Snyder.
you hire David Fincher, it's gonna be dark and very low light. There's not much you can do about it. It's just, you have to filter it through that lens,
right? And
if that's how he's gonna do it. Actually, like, that leads to another question. Like, is your opinion on this different, knowing that it's just a one-off? That this is just like one version of this universe that we're getting, like, from a specific director, instead of this is setting the tone for the next 10 years of DC adaptations.
Right.
But it's already not, because we're still getting, like, other branch off movies, because Aquaman was brighter, Wonder Woman was brighter, James Gunn's Suicide Squad is brighter. Like, we're seeing colors in those, which is not in Zack's.
But it made me less I don't know, it felt like there was less of a weight to it, knowing that it's just going to be this one time, and we're not going to have to like keep seeing these over and over again for the next God knows how many movies. And knowing that different directors are going to have their own imprint on it instead.
This brings me back to a long time ago when the trailer for Ragnarok dropped for Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this guy on the internet who I knew, and he trashed the trailer, just saying it was going to be shit. It's just trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy, but with Thor. And then his main criticism was it's too colorful. Like, it's just, you know, they're trying too hard with all the colors. And I was like, dude, read like a single issue of any Thor and tell me, like, it's not colorful.
His
like,
bridge is a rainbow.
There's 9 realms, or however many realms, like, and they're all different color. Like, Jesus Christ. If anything, the first 2 Thor movies were like the shit, and you should have been upset with that, with it being so dark and muted, especially the second one. And then we get Ragnarok, and then of course it comes out, and it's one of the best movies Marvel has made to date. Which, is it all Taika Waititi? I mean, the guy's a genius. I don't know if that was all him, but like, goddamn, dude, just give him the reins to everything. But it gives me that throwback of like, color's not a bad thing. You can make it splashy, and it can be good.
It seems to be the direction they're going now. I mean, look how incredibly saturated Aquaman was.
Right.
Even Birds of Prey, which is like a dark R-rated movie, that was still like very vivid.
I was okay with that movie.
I was literally just gonna say, how do you guys feel about that? Because I've talked to a couple friends about it recently, and everyone was like, I recommend it. It was fun. You should watch it.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a good movie.
I don't have a lot terrible to say about it. And like, even if people want to point out like certain plot holes, they're there because the characters forgot about them. It's like, oh, well, Harley could have done this with the diamond. And it's like, she didn't know that. There's no reason for her to know that was a secret. So she just hawked it at a pawn shop. And like, I get it. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, there's some parts, like, I wasn't a fan of what they did to Cassandra Cain, but not like, you know, it was the thing of like low expectations coming off of Suicide Squad.
Right.
Well, what are they going to do? And like, kind of give Harley more, less of they call it the male gaze. And I'm like, yeah, she gets to have, her hair is cuter or more fun, and she's not wearing a push-up bra all the time. I'm like, yeah, fine. Just make it entertaining. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm gonna have to add that to the Friday night list then. So Justice League, it happened. I don't know if either of you had anything else you wanted to elaborate on before we start to wrap up. Silence. Because we did the thing that we usually end up doing, which I think might come off wrong. Because like, we did this with Star Wars, was it? With Colin? I can't remember what movie it was, but we just no, Stranger Things, where we just obliterated it. But we reassured everyone over and over again, like,
we liked it.
We liked it. But we just picked apart everything that we didn't like. I think we did okay with that in this episode. Like, I mean, for the, you know, Jared mentioned that he enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the movie. Alex didn't want it to exist. Or not that he didn't want it to exist. He was convinced it wasn't going to exist.
You know, I have a dream, I guess. Like, you know how in Spider-Verse we got a Spider-Man who's been doing it for a long time, and he's really good at it.
Yep.
And it's not when we get a new Spider-Man, it's like, well, he has to learn how to do everything Spider-Man does again. Like, he starts off and he's been doing this a long time. He's amazing. He's spectacular. And he's showing the new kid how to be spectacular. And boy, do I want a Flash who's already good at everything. Just, he's already good at being the Flash. I really want that.
Because the Flash, when he's good, is awesome.
He's so awesome. He's so
I can kind of walk through time, but I don't have a treadmill. So it's uncontrollable. But of course, he doesn't know what a treadmill is yet because we're too busy establishing his background and his development and him figuring out how to use his powers instead of like...
And save his dad.
And save Billy Crudup.
Would have been more helpful if there was a solo movie beforehand, but that kid, that horse left the barn.
We have the TV show, I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen the show, but I've heard it started off really good, then just plummeted downhill.
That's a shame.
But again, that's literally what I read on Reddit. So who knows how accurate that is? Well, see, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's an opinion to take seriously. So, Justice League, it happened. We got two Justice Leagues.
The final episode of Flash season 1 had me weeping.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, now I'm more interested in watching Flash. And I think Kevin Smith directed a couple episodes, or is that Supergirl, or both?
No idea.
Either way, I don't have cable, so it doesn't matter much. Justice League happened. We got two of them. We got the famed Snyder Cut. It was released. HBO Max was probably the best thing I signed up for all year. That's how right? Good selection. That's how I watched The Sopranos. I finally got to watch The Sopranos. I finally got to watch. Yeah. Okay. So I'm definitely in the minority. I don't know if I'm definitely in the minority here, but I finally got to watch Newsroom, which I've wanted to watch for a while because I like Sorkin. I really like Newsroom, which seems to not be the thing that a lot of people say. But I get to watch a lot more TV shows that I didn't have access to because it was on the HBO and all that stuff. So HBO Max, man, we're not even getting paid to say this.
It's like they absorbed all of the DC Universe channel.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
we watched
the Harley Quinn show. That's been great.
That was good. Yeah.
And they got like all the old Adult Swim stuff on there. You can watch like C-Lab and Aqua Teen and Harvey Birdman and stuff.
All the Studio Ghibli stuff too.
Right. Yep. Which I haven't seen any of, so it gives me the opportunity to remedy that.
Oh, shall I curate for you?
I've heard they're kind of good, so. Anyways, Jared, dude, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Justice League with us. It's fun.
And, of course, man. Thank you again for having me on. I thank you for helping me focus my thoughts on this more.
If anything, I feel like we came out with a win on that. And if at the end of the day, no one listens, at least we got to help with that. But
Jared,
it was fun. Yes.
Can you please plug where people can find your stuff?
Oh, yes. I've made.
I thought you said JR, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Sorry, Jared. Go ahead. Where can people find Jared Skolnick stuff?
You can find them all on my website on skolnickfilms.com, and almost all of my movies are free to watch. And some of them are scary, some of them are funny. One of them has Alex in it.
Yeah.
Right now I've just been spending most of my time working on another person's movie and writing my own. So gotta keep the ball rolling.
That's what I like to hear. I like Jared's stuff. It's very, very funny stuff. At least the one that he referenced with Alex in it. One of my favorite things on the internet. And also things that make you think and make you uncomfortable. And movies are fun. So
they are. They're great.
All right. I'm about Justice League out. I imagine everyone listening is too. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's fun. You probably had a little bit spoiled for you here today, but Yeah.
If you
Anyways,
have thoughts
Jared, thanks again.
we didn't get to, share them on our page. Ask us
Drop
on
'em.
Facebook or Instagram or wherever, and let us know what you think.
Drop them in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. All the usual platitudes. And thanks for listening. So I guess that's going to do it. Until next time, I've been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Jared.
And this has been episode 425 of Opinions May Vary. Hey everyone, if you liked that episode, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Opinions May Vary, and on Twitter and YouTube at OMV Podcast. You can also find us on Spotify or on our very own website at omvpodcast.com. And if you're looking for merch, we have stickers and pins available over at omvpodcast.bigcartel.com while supplies last. As always, thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we will see you next time.